to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys, a big exclusive.
You say that I'm a terrorist because I'm calling for my faith, and fair enough, doesn't mean nothing to me.
Britain's most notorious jihadi is tonight a free man, and
if you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay. Period.
Nigel Farage unveils Reform's bumper plan for mass deportations, and
politicians who sat in government for many years, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Well, the rape gang inquiry reveals it's happened/is happening in 85 local authorities in Britain. Plus,
Ophelia Ahmed, a British Pakistani girl from Warrington, who was murdered aged 17 by her parents for becoming too westernised.
Well, yesterday it was foreign sex offenders. Today it's Pakistani foreigners killing their daughters for bringing shame on the family. Also,
really get to know somebody when you're in a little tent together and there's like,
What is that outside What is that outside the tent?
That's an elephant.
Are we going to be safe? Yeah, you're safe.
Oh.
Okay.
she was safe. Anyway, there's big new Meghan Markle news for you, and
we're back and we're ready for it all over again.
Jezbollah, anybody? Corbyn's new party has stupidly put their new name to some kind of public vote. On my panel tonight, we've got former Conservative MP Heather Wheeler, we've got political commentator Jonathan Liss, and acting deputy commentator/editor at the Daily Telegraph, Poppy Coburn. Thank you very much. Oh, and can you guess why I'm playing you this clip? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Big exclusive for you. Britain's most dangerous jihadi is walking amongst us. Next. Yes, good evening. I can exclusively reveal that one of Britain's most dangerous jihadi terrorists is now a free man.
My name is Mohammed Shah Jahan. I'm 25 years old and I come from Stoke-on-Trent. Many people have called myself a radical, a fundamentalist, maybe a terrorist even sometimes. But if they say that I'm a terrorist because I'm calling for my faith, then fair enough. Doesn't mean nothing to me because, if anything, it shows that I'm on the footstep of the Prophet Muhammad because he was called a terrorist, a fundamentalist as well.
Yeah. So that is Mohammed Shah Jahan. He is the Islamist who tried to blow up the London Stock Exchange, and he has just been released from prison. Yes, that was him appearing in a BBC documentary prior to him being convicted, by the way. He was friends with the Fishmongers Hall jihadi Usman Khan, the Islamist who claimed to have been rehabilitated before stabbing 2 young people to death and being shot dead by police. For some reason, the parole board has decided that Mohammed Shah Jahan has served his time and is now fit to walk amongst us. This is despite him being released in 2019 but recalled to prison for breaching his licence conditions. He planned to do a marauding bomb and gun attack on Christmas Eve in 2012, and he'd also planned to set up a training camp in Pakistan for British militants. One of the people he was jailed alongside was released and then went on to commit that Fishmongers Hall terror attack, as I've said, but another person he was jailed with in 2012 was released in 2019 and then immediately started plotting an Islamist attack to murder members of the public with a pipe bomb and a meat cleaver. He is the man circled in that picture if you're watching us on TV or online. He's called Mohibur Rahman, and now he's back behind bars. But this is the guy who's just been released, OK? You need to remember that face, I think, given the fact that he is now back out and about. Shah Jahan was refused parole last January, but was granted it earlier this year, despite a prison psychologist previously ruling that he, quotes, had a tendency to overlook the consequences of his actions. Yeah. Well, he's originally from Stoke-on-Trent. He was also accused of planning to attack pubs up there. We now don't know exactly where he is, but the parole board have decided that this card-carrying jihadi lunatic is safe to walk the streets. This is a disaster waiting to happen. He's a jihadi who was intent on indiscriminate mass murder. People with this ideology claim that they love death more than we love life. How on earth can you ever de-radicalise a person like that? Let's get the thoughts on my panel this evening. We've got former Conservative MP Heather Wheeler, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and the Telegraph's Poppy Coburn as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Poppy, I'll start with you, if that's all right. Is this just an insane decision that puts us all at risk, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's like you said, this is a loving death more than life. And I think some people are going to say, look, he served his time in prison, why should he not have a chance to get out? But we know that, you know, you're not going to get rehabilitated in British prisons anymore. We've seen so many examples of people coming in for petty misdemeanours and coming out as Islamists. This guy came in a wannabe terrorist. We really expect that he's come out, you know, a good-natured liberal. I just think it's ridiculous.
Heather, I'll bring you in on this. I mean, it was important to say, so he was given an indeterminate sentence. So this is singularly up to the parole board, the fact that this guy is now back out and about. And 2 of the people that he was jailed with at the time, one of them went on to commit a terrorist attack, the other one came out and immediately started planning one.
This actually puts indeterminate sentences into a really interesting light because people have been campaigning against them for a very, very long time. Kids 19 who were caught up in a knife fight weren't carrying a knife, but the other 3 kids were. They were given indeterminate sentences, and some of them were still in prison. So people have been campaigning to stop that. So whether this has got wrapped up in that, I don't know, but it's not good enough. And I think the parole board really do need to look at it again.
Yeah, I mean, why, again, you know, why should the ordinary law-abiding British public have to put up with this card-carrying jihadi lunatic back out and about?
Well, Patrick, as you know, we have whole life sentences for a very small number of crimes and criminals in this country. If you have a whole life sentence, you would have to have done something totally heinous. Now, thank goodness he didn't actually didn't manage to commit whatever atrocity he was planning. If he had managed that, then I dare say he might have been liable for a whole life sentence. Thank goodness he didn't. But the law doesn't work like that. You can just give a whole life sentence.
Maybe it needs changing then.
Look, I take the point that Poppy was making about the problems with rehabilitation in prison, and that's a failure of multiple governments in the prison system that we haven't invested enough resources in rehabilitation. And
you don't think you can rehabilitate a jihadi, can you?
I don't. I like to think that people can have a chance to rehabilitate themselves and that we don't write people off. There are some people for whom that won't be possible and there will always be dangerous to the public, and those people need to be looked at. But I don't think that we can, if they make this decision, presumably they've got evidence and grounds to do so.
OK, Poppy, do you think we can rehabilitate this jihadi?
No, I don't. And I don't trust the system, even if they were able to rehabilitate him. I mean, OK, let's say that he's out on the streets, he said he's changed, the parole board has gone through everything. He's going to need to be monitored. Well, we already know that our anti-terrorism monitoring services aren't exactly working very well. We've seen that with all the failing to prevent. We saw it with Axel Rudabakana and the Southport murders last year. What irritates me is that I understand there are flaws with the system, but why should ordinary British people have to take a risk when they get on a train, when they commute into London, knowing that this nut job is out there?
Death penalty for jihadis?
I mean, they're terrorists.
What do you reckon?
Well, interestingly, ages ago, I was PPS to the Attorney General. So this will have ended up on the Attorney General's desk for signing off.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So when you're talking about changing an indeterminate sentence and getting freedom from the parole board, it's signed off.
So in order to OK, so educate me on this and potentially some viewers and listeners as well. So in order for someone who's serving an indeterminate sentence to be released, the Attorney General has to sign off on it?
Yeah, it might be the Solicitor General on the day. Lord Herman might be away on holiday or something, but obviously not now, because this is a couple of months ago now, isn't it? But it would have been signed off by the law officers, yeah.
I mean, so if this guy goes on to commit some kind of terrorist act again on the streets of Britain, you know, does Lord Herman not have to go as a result of this? Does the Attorney General's office, whoever it was on the day who was holding that pen over that piece of paper and signed it, do they not have to go?
Patrick, I don't know what to say to you. Obviously, when you have people who are released and then go on to commit crimes, there has to be some kind of inquiry about the lessons that should be learned. But we don't have the benefit of hindsight all the time, and we can't just keep everybody in prison on the off chance that they go on and commit crimes again. You have to, once people have served their sentence, they get released.
We have some experience of this. So we have Quram Butt, who did the Borough Market terrorist attack, appeared on a Channel 4 documentary called The Jihadi Next Door and unfurled an ISIS flag in Regent's Park. If only there was a way of telling that this guy might go on to do something terrible. Then we've got his mate, right, Usman Khan, who went on to stab 2 people to death at Fishmongers Hall after claiming to have been rehabilitated. Then we've got his other mate, who came out again, then decided to mastermind a foiled pipe bomb attack as well. I mean, there is form for this. I mean, should these people ever really be able to walk the streets again?
I mean, the government warned about this. Jonathan Hall, KC, he did a report in 2022, and he said that the last 4 major terror attacks in the UK had committed by people who were either on remand or were actually operating within prisons. So we already know that there are 4 cases of this already happening before.
I don't know if we were able to play, you know that clip of him that we played from that BBC documentary right at the start of my monologue there, where he goes on to say that essentially, I'm paraphrasing it, but he doesn't really mind being called a terrorist. I think, can we just play this again? Because let's have a think about whether or not it's possible to de-radicalise someone like this, because as far as he's concerned, he's serving Allah, isn't he? And Allah will be more important than any human being. So here he is.
My name is Mohammed Shah Jahan. I'm 25 years old and I come from Stoke-on-Trent. Many people have called myself a radical, a fundamentalist, maybe a terrorist even sometimes. But if they say that I'm a terrorist because I'm calling for my faith, then fair enough. Doesn't mean nothing to me, because if anything, it shows that I'm on the footstep of the Prophet Muhammad, because he was called a terrorist, a fundamentalist as well.
So that was before any convictions, although, again, there was a way of knowing, wasn't there? But I don't think how can you compete with Allah?
Well, you can't. I'm fascinated whether anybody's done any background checks. Does he have dual nationality? Does anybody know? Is this an opportunity for the Labour government to actually be strong and say, we're going to strip you of your British nationality if you've got Pakistani or Afghani nationality, and you're gone?
Patrick, the point is that there are people who have been radicalised and happen to be radicalised. Some of them to become quite right-wing, actually, if you look in the media. And so I think that if we were to say that on no account can anyone who has been radicalised ever walk the streets again, I think that would be an overcorrection. Now, it's possible that sometimes the parole board, the government gets things wrong. I accept that, but I also think that we have to trust the judgment that the parole board has made, knowing or hoping they would have considered all the evidence.
Would you let him live with you?
Would I let him live with me? I don't know him, Patrick, so no.
You wouldn't let someone like that move in with one of your relatives, or because he's going to have to live somewhere, isn't he? He's going to have to live next door to someone. See, this is the thing. This is what I do think that people on the left don't bother to think about, which is that he is someone. He's quite possibly now Stoke's problem. Do you care about the people of Stoke?
I think that's a provocative question, Patrick. Of course, I care about people in this country.
Have you been to Stoke?
Yes, I have, actually. I don't know why that's relevant either. There are plenty of places in the country that I haven't been to that I also care about, because I care about people and I'm part of this country and I care about the British people.
So it's OK for them to...
No, I don't know why you're putting words in my mouth.
Well, it has to live somewhere, doesn't it?
Yes,
So,
exactly.
So you're all right as long as he's not anywhere
Patrick,
near you?
As I've just said, we don't put people in prison for whole life sentences unless they've committed extraordinarily heinous crimes. Now, I'm not against whole life sentences per se. Clearly, he has not merited one in this case under the laws of this land. If you think that we should have whole life sentences for attempted atrocities, that's a conversation we can have.
Blowing up the London Stock Exchange and launching a widespread marauding gun attack, potentially across multiple different cities at the same time, I would argue is about as heinous.
Yes, but intent is not the same as execution under the law.
Grief.
It's not the same as attempted murder is not the same as murder.
Do you agree with that? What do you think, Bob?
Well, I just think, look, if you look into this guy's modus operandi, he tried to blow up the London Stock Exchange, but he had another idea. He wanted to set up a Pakistani training camp for Islamists in the UK. Why don't we let him do it? Off he goes. Send him to Pakistan. He's no longer our problem.
Well, on that note, there is a wider point here, which is about homegrown radicalisation. So, as far as I'm aware, this guy I think was born around the Stoke area, and we are seeing an increase in this, which is basically British-born jihadis. So, why is that, do you think? And how can we maybe stop that? Do you have any idea about why that might be happening?
I mean, yeah, even all the way back in the late 90s, we were being called Londistan because we had such a massive problem with Islamist radicalisation in the UK. I mean, it was literally a joke around Europe how bad we had it. I think we've seen less cases of this happening in recent years, mainly because we've jailed a lot of those people, because we cracked down on them really hard in the early 2000s. And that's why I'm so worried about the release of these people. It's not been that we've got really, really good at detecting terror attacks in a way we weren't 30 years ago. It's just that a lot of the people who were radicalised have been behind bars. Do I believe that those people should be walking the streets free to radicalise the new generation of people? No, I don't.
Well, what do you think about that issue of homegrown terrorists?
So, I mean, clearly this is a brilliant scoop that GB News have got. What I would be really interested to know is he actually still on licence? Because if he's on licence, then he will be monitored.
He will be.
Absolutely, he will be on licence.
Yeah, he is. I mean, we've got a statement from the Ministry of Justice.
OK,
but yes,
great.
he is on licence.
That's really helpful. And apart from anything else, you know, as much as we love getting into the nitty-gritty of this, we need to put people's minds at rest. You know, we can't start running hairs left, right and centre. We've got to make sure that the public will believe that they are going to be looked after and that this chap is going to be monitored down to his toenails, because if we don't have that from our police and from our different services, let's call them, then you know, we are in a really sad spot. I don't want that to happen in our country.
But that's also the point, because the government knows that if he were to do anything, they would take all of the political flack, apart from any of the moral implications of it. So, of course, they will make sure, as Heather says, that he's monitored and surveilled very closely.
Why do you think we are seeing so much homegrown radicalisation? Because, so for example, when ISIS were in their pomp, we sent obviously people left and went of their own accord, of course. Quite huge numbers of Brits went over there, and a lot of them came back, unfortunately, and huge amounts of them came back to London, actually. Why do you think it is that so many British-born people are now Islamists?
Well, obviously, there's been a big radicalisation of a number of people who are vulnerable people, young people, such as Shamima Begum, for example, who I think should be allowed to come back here to serve trial.
I think, was she?
Well, it doesn't. What are you saying that it's
not vulnerable particularly? I would have thought.
Well, I think that a lot of young people might be clever and still vulnerable.
She just stuck around and got her results. She probably appeared in a local newspaper around Tower Hamlets saying how well she'd done at school.
I don't think that doing well in school precludes you from being a vulnerable young person who is susceptible to ideologies that can be quite alluring for some people by very charismatic people who are feeding them this bile. I mean, it's just people are people.
You could point out that there is such a thing as being a vulnerable 13-year-old girl, 14-year-old girl, feeling a bit insecure, and actually travelling to Syria and joining ISIS at the height of its powers is something that requires a bit more examination than just maybe they were vulnerable.
Well, I'm not defending her. I'm just offering an explanation about how people do get radicalised.
OK. All right. Well, look, there's a lot to unpack here. I wanted to bring that to you because I would expect that probably tomorrow or the day after some of the newspapers are going to pick it up and you're going to see it there. But I also think it's because it's an accident waiting to happen, this. And I thought it was a fascinating angle, the idea that it looks as though this would have had to have been signed off by the Attorney General's office. If anything goes wrong there, where does that blame lie, really? But we have got a statement from the Ministry of Justice saying terror offenders released on licence are under strict supervision and can be returned to prison if they break the rules. To enhance public safety, we're increasing probation funding by 45% by 2028 and plan to recruit 2,300 new officers by March next year. So there we go. We'll have to wait and see if anything happens. Hopefully it doesn't, but there does appear to be some kind of tragic inevitability about it, like his mates. But loads more coming your way, including children as young as 4 being sent home from school for racism. Nigel Farage's, of course, bumper deportations plan. But before that, in the final week, yes, it's the final week, to see how you could live the next year mortgage or rent-free, an additional £5,000 in your bank account. Or if you don't have those payments each month, then it could be £15,000 in tax-free cash just for you. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
There's just 3 days to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. Hurry, lines close this Friday. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 922. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back, everybody. I regret to inform you that Meghan Markle is back.
You really get to know somebody when you're in a little tent together and there's like,
What is that outside the... What is that outside the tent?
that's an elephant.
Are we going to be safe? Yeah, you're safe.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, good. OK, up next, though, kids as young as 4 are being kicked out of school, not for throwing tantrums, not for mucking about in class, but for racism, yes. Should reception-age pupils really be suspended for, quote, racist behaviour? That's the debate, and it's next.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Children as young as 4 are being sent home from school for racism. It's time now for the head-to-head. Well, yes, so reception-age children are being booted out of school for so-called racist behaviour. Suspensions have hit a record high, with most cases about racist language, but also physical attacks and even apparently racist graffiti. And all this comes as the left-wing activist group Hope Not Hate is pushing now for school children to dob in their classmates for so-called signs of hatred. Gosh, does anyone know anyone who used to advocate this kind of behaviour? Stalin. In fact, just after Labour took power, the group suggested in a report that hateful attitudes could be tackled in schools through anonymous tip-offs from pupils. Bingo. Can't see that going wrong. Look, at its core, should 4-year-olds be suspended for racism? We're going to debate this now, and I'm joined by teacher and commentator Aisha Ali Khan and former Education Secretary Michelle Donovan. Thank you very much. Tremendous to see you both. Michelle, I'll start with you. Should children as young as 4 realistically be sent home? I mean, do you believe any of this, really?
No, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Of course, a 4-year-old shouldn't be sent home. I mean, first of all, we've got to remember a 4-year-old is a 4-year-old. They're not actually able to comprehend the concept of racism. They are able to parrot back things that they've heard. And so the right approach should be for the teacher to explain and to understand and to do, the teaching of what is wrong with what they've said and to explain the implications and how it can hurt another child or another member of the school community, but excluding them and suspending them is simply not going to do anything. Just issuing discipline without understanding is going to make the problem worse. So it's absolutely ridiculous because it's not a common sense approach, but also it doesn't deal with the root cause of the problem either.
Aisha, do you believe in racist 4-year-olds?
No, I don't, actually. I agree with what Michelle has just said. I do feel that, I mean, first of all, Patrick, the figures are just 5 children, reception-age children, out of nearly 2,500 primary-age kids last year. So I do feel that if you are, as a teacher, I have witnessed incidents of children. I teach secondary, so these are obviously older children. And I have seen children use language. And honestly, I see that as an opportunity to talk to them, to kind of help them understand and maybe see how the language might be seen as offensive. But I do feel there's a lot of pressure on teachers, there's a lot of pressure on everybody working with children, especially given the fact that the children we're seeing, the lack of social skills, many of them, obviously, COVID is still having an impact. A lot of the children that did their GCSEs this year, a lot of them, obviously, we saw a decline as well in the number of GCSEs being children getting because of the impact of COVID we're still seeing. And obviously we're talking about social impact as well, we're talking about mental health as well, and just a lack of awareness. But Patrick, I do feel that we have social media now, we've got TikTok, we've got all these things online, and children are seeing things a lot more than maybe 5-10 years ago, and they're picking things up and they're repeating things. And I feel that if we can use these opportunities to incidents as opportunities to help educate children as well as their parents as well.
I get that. I must say, I do think it works both ways. I mean, we had in Tower Hamlets school children being taken out of school to go and join some kind of pro-Palestine march at which some incredibly fruity stuff was being said. I have seen with my own eyes reporting on that parents are giving children, really young children, megaphones so they can start chanting about Israel being a terrorist state and everything. I think there's an idea here, really, that it's kind of like white kids who can be the racist ones, whereas I do have concerns, Michelle, that actually, it could be really right across the board.
Well, it could be indeed, and I take the point that it's only 5 kids, but it's 5 kids too many, because what does suspending a kid do? It puts a great deal of pressure on their parents. Working parents could end up losing their employment at the very end of the spectrum. In addition, if they're getting these ideas and these concepts from their home environment, suspending them is the lazy attitude that actually makes the problem worse, could fuel the problem. So what we need to be doing is talking to our kids. And I think the bigger issue is that something that we've shied away from for far too long, we need to be embedding values throughout our school community. And that means British identity, British values, a sense of British cohesion. And that's something that we seem to be afraid to talk about in this country.
Well, quite. I mean, it's something that we've discussed quite a lot, and I don't mean to be directing this at you, Aisha, at all, but about kind of rampant left-wing bias in schools. I would argue not just schools, but also in the public sector. I mean, I had the slight misfortune of being in a hospital earlier today, and the first notice board that you see when you walk in is all about join a union. Then you see everyone in there's got a rainbow lanyard on, and then before you know it, if you wait a few hours, you might eventually be seen by a medical professional. And I wonder whether or not schools once a few years ago reported a kid to the Prevent scheme because he said he supported UKIP. I mean, if this is the level that we're at, then I'm quite fearful. I mean, I question what some of these kids might have said. I mean, one of them might have accidentally used the word "stop the boats," and before you know it, he's been suspended.
Well, actually, Patrick, kids are using language like this, and I think, again, it's an important opportunity to talk to them. But Michelle, you've mentioned that sending children home might impact the parents. I feel that if parents are informed and they're involved, it will actually drive the message home. I mean, children, it's unfair on other children if they are being subjected to racist language or racist attacks, physical attacks, graffiti and so on. And I think it is important. But can I just tell you of an incident, Patrick and Michelle? A couple of years ago, one of my students was basically sent home, a Pakistani boy, because he had tried to write out the lyrics of a song, and he was trying to, he didn't know the song title. He wrote the lyrics out, it had the N-word. Immediately the laptop shut down. We got an email straight away saying this laptop has used offensive language, and he was basically sent home, and we had to contact parents and ask them to come in and speak to them. And this is good, because at least children are being told like immediate reaction. There's an immediate sort of pulling them up. What are you doing? Why are you using this language? But there are some instances where it's genuinely an innocent comment, it's an innocent mistake. And again, it's the only way we can tackle that kind of misunderstandings is by talking to the parents, talking to the children and so on. But there has to be consequences. There's no point in just talking to children and saying, okay, that's fine now, and the behaviour is being repeated again and again. But I think we do need to take a holistic approach, an understanding approach as well, because there's still children at the end of the day, and we need to be the role models that they see as well.
Okay, all right, we're going to leave it there, I'm afraid, but thank you very much. Tremendous to have you both on. It was quite good, a good both sides. Discussion anyway, and we've got Aisha Ali Khan there as the teacher and commentator, and former Education Secretary Michelle Donnellan. Thank you. Right, well, a spokesperson for the Department of Education said these figures are unacceptable. We're clear that racism and discrimination have absolutely no place in our schools, and we will always support our hard-working Oh, come on. I'll support our hard-working teachers to provide safe and calm classrooms. They're sending 4-year-olds home, for goodness sake. The Education Secretary is committed to a comprehensive programme, good, because she probably ditched the private one, of behaviour support for schools, starting with new attendance and behaviour hubs. They will directly target the schools with the highest need, as well as wide support for schools in all corners of the country. I tell you what, I reckon genuinely that the highest level of racism is in schools right now is anti-Semitism, and I am not convinced that that is coming from the majority of white British pupils. But anyway, coming up, Nigel Farage has unveiled Reform's bumper plan for mass deportations.
If you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay, period.
Yeah, look, he's unveiled the strictest illegal immigration policy that Britain has ever seen. I'm going to be going through it a bit later on. But Meghan Markle is back. She's returning with her second series of With Love, bringing us the latest on flower arranging and silk dyeing. And finally, we get to find out when Prince Harry first said, "I love you." Yay! Wonder when the last time he said it was. Anyway, stay tuned.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, there's plenty of sunny spells across Europe, but also some widespread thunderstorms developing. So across much of Madeira and the Canary Islands, a few showers here and breezy. Across Spain, fine with plenty of sunshine. But here are those thunderstorms with the risk of hail and lightning. Across Greece, much of the country seeing plenty of sunshine here. And as we go through the week, there'll still be some showers around, but also plenty of sunshine still, and temperatures up to 33.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Most places are going to have a largely dry night, with today's showers largely dying out. However, there is a weather system out in the Atlantic that's heading our way, and it's going to bring a spell of pretty heavy and perhaps even thundery rain for many places as we go through tomorrow. Before that though, like I said, a largely dry night across many spots, just a few showers, particularly towards the north and west. Under the dry, clearer weather, things may turn a little fresh for some of us. That being said, most towns and cities holding up in double digits. Just a few rural spots could just about fall into single figures. And then it's a largely fine start to the day for many places. Across much of Scotland, there will be a good deal of sunshine early on. Just a few showery bursts here or there, particularly around some central areas. There could be a couple of showers, and they could be a little bit on the heavy side. A different story for Northern Ireland, though. That weather system I highlighted, here it is going to be bringing a pretty wet start to the day, and there could be some gusty winds, maybe even some rumbles of thunder mixed in with it as well. Similar across parts of Western Wales, southwest England, an unsettled start here. Elsewhere across much of England, though, it's a fine picture through much of the morning, but that whole frontal system is going to march its way eastwards across the whole of the country. So most of us will see a spell of heavy rain, and there could be some thunder, some gusty winds mixed in. The further east you are, the later it's going to arrive. With the slightly more unsettled weather, temperatures are going to be down a couple of degrees and feeling a little bit fresher as well compared to today. Then into Thursday, and it's a bit of a westy split. Eastern parts having a lot of fine weather still. Further west, a greater chance of some frequent showers, and these could be heavy, perhaps even thundery, and a few of those showers will push their way towards the east as well. Another showery day likely on Friday and on Saturday, but that does bring the potential for some heavier rain, perhaps in the southwest.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Well, welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Loads on this evening. Specifically now, Meghan Markle is back, isn't she? Yes, that's right. The Duchess of Sussex is back on your screens. The season 2 of her Netflix show, With Love Meghan, has dropped.
These moments of discovery and beauty. So let's be curious together. Do you know who doesn't like lobster?
Who?
My husband.
And you'll marry him?
The Duchess kicks things off by asking her makeup artist if he's comfortable cutting onions, and it only gets stranger from there. Cue flower arranging, sugar syrup, silk scarf dyeing, and Meghan telling us this is so wild. Oh, gosh, look at me. I'm crazy. I'm so crazy, me. I put flowers on things. She also opens up about her old job as a Deal or No Deal briefcase girl and admits that she misses Magic FM from the UK. And she even recalls Prince Harry saying, "I love you" on their third date.
So you really had time to fall in love in those few days. That's nice.
But you really get to know somebody when you're in a little tent together, and there's like, what is that outside? What is that outside the tent? That's an elephant. Are we gonna be safe? Yeah, you're safe.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you tell him first, or did he tell you?
He told me.
Oh, that's nice.
I wonder when the last time he said it was. Quite a painful watch, that. Anyway, some are calling it compulsory fun with strangers. Fans call it wholesome. But 8 episodes of onions, odd crafts and personal growth in someone else's kitchen. Start your therapy now. I'm joined now by showbiz journalist Sarah Louise Robertson. Sarah, thank you very, very much. So, yeah, this looks painful.
Oh, Patrick. I just don't know how much I can take of Meghan Markle's professional victimhood, because that is literally what it is. She just does not know how to... She's just tone deaf. I think that's what really comes across in this series. You know, we have the flower sprinkles that she said she puts on everything. I mean, she does call herself a grandma, but it's just the fact she is literally like this Marie Antoinette of Montecito, and the way that she lives this life, you know, floating around this garden, but it seems just not real. It's just so far removed from most people's lives watching this. You know, people are thinking, how are we going to feed our children? How are we, you know, going to pay the mortgage? How are we going to pay the bills? And then Meghan just comes on and everything is, it was so hard when she was in the royal family. That's what she always sort of refers back to, that now she could be free. When she was back in the royal family, she felt she was being inauthentic. I mean, I can't stand that word, by the way. You know, but this is her now just waffling on about, you know, life was so hard for her. But at the same time, it's just this showing off about, you know, her lovely clothes and her famous friends and her beautiful gardens and her fabulous kitchen and how she's married to Prince Harry and their perfect life and their perfect children, and Archie's the sweetest child of all time. Well, every parent thinks their child's the sweetest child of all time. And it's just like she's trying to be this little Miss Mini Perfect, and it's just great.
Has she ever actually met any one of these friends before?
Well, you just wonder, don't you? I mean, the makeup artist, Daniel Martin, yes. And Chrissy T...
Oh, he's paid to be friends with her, isn't he? So.
Well, he's obviously, she pays him, doesn't she, to do her makeup and make her look pretty. But Chrissy Teigen, they met while being briefcase girls on Deal or No Deal, which was this, like, TV game show in America. And what's interesting, this is where you do get to see a little bit of the real Meghan about what she is, which is avaricious, Patrick, is she says to Chrissy, look how far we've come. And she said how she took the job because she wanted health insurance. Again, how hard it was because they used to have their eyelashes put on and wait in a queue to get fake eyelashes put on. It's just superficial, frivolous nonsense. But the earnest bit of it is that bit where she says how far they've both come, her and Chrissy, and she nods along because she's married to the multimillionaire pop star John Legend. And you just realise that all Meghan has ever wanted, Patrick, is to be bone idle, married to a rich man, taken care of, be a trad wife, float around in a lovely mansion, faff on, look like she's doing something of use, whereas really, is she? Do we care that she puts flour sprinkles on French toast, whatever crap she's making? No. You know, what is that doing really for the good of the world? Nothing. Absolutely zilch. She had it all, and I've said this to you before, Patrick, on your show. She had it all when she was the Duchess of Sussex, where she came into the royal family. She had the world at her feet, where she could have done something of good, something of use, given back. But she didn't want that. That wasn't enough. What she just wanted was to be lazy and very, very rich, and to show it off to anybody who's around to say, look how far I've come. Look at me. Look at my mansion.
Well, show off someone else's house, though.
Lifestyle.
I mean, this is the other thing. I mean, it's not even their house. I mean, I don't know where the kids are while she's filming all of this, but she's claiming to be doing this to look after them all the time. I don't know. Do we ever see them? I'm not sure, but
there's nannies, there's staff. I mean, come on, she's not doing this herself. You could see that. I tell you what showed as well during the show. I mean, you obviously won't remember different things from different episodes. But she actually says at one point, oh, look, the producers have created a flower stall for me, or she calls it a flower cart or something outside. You just realise how set up the entire show is. It's just a sham. And you're right, Patrick, it wasn't filmed at her house. We never see her house. It's someone else's mansion. You know, she's trying to pass it off as hers.
Well, they argue, Sarah Louise, that you know, look, they got cut off, so they need to make their own money somehow, and they can be, you know, this is how they're doing it, and they are, and you know, I suppose they would say as well, if enough people thought like you and I about it, then they would have cancelled this second series, and so people must like it. The only thing I will say is this was filmed at exactly the same time as the first one, so they filmed it all, which makes me wonder if they put their best stuff in the first one, then what kind of guff are we about to be served up?
Well, exactly. This is it. So that was the other thing I was going to point out, Patrick. All of this was filmed last year because she talks about Guy, the beagle dog who died in January, sadly. So we see Guy in this, and then there is a touching moment where Lily, her daughter, runs in. We just see the back of Lily's head, and she kisses photo frame. And Meghan, again, gushes on about how amazing H, as she calls Prince Harry, her husband, is. It's always H, never his full name. And she says, look at this sweet present H has left for me. But all of this was filmed last year, and then a little bit at the beginning of the year, just after Guy the Beagle died. So there's lots of, I think, crossover, I would say, between the show that we saw earlier, the first series, to this. But she is exhausted, Patrick, everything that she could possibly do now.
Oh, I thought you meant she is personally, physically exhausted. I was up from what? Why?
Well, she doesn't really work. What has she done? She's never struck a bat.
Gosh, I'm so tired. Gosh, anyway. All right, so
it's professional victimhood. That's what it is.
I quite like the bit in the last series where Prince Harry had obviously chewed through his leash and managed to get out of the attic and came down at the end. So, hello, I'm here. Anyway, Sarah, thank you very much. Sarah Louise Robertson, that showbiz journalist. Hey, look again, maybe we've got people watching this. She said, Meghan Markle's wonderful. She's been catastrophically poorly treated. This is how they make their own money. And you know what? Maybe we're doing them a favour by talking about them. Yeah. You might be right. Anyway, coming up, Nigel Farage has unveiled Reform UK's plan to deal with illegal immigration. I mean, it's deport, and I mean, it's pretty strong stuff. Is it finally time for the government to declare a border emergency?
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route.
Well, talking of things we've imported but don't want, honour-based crime. The government announces a crackdown on honour-based abuse with new laws, guidance and campaigns to protect victims. I have a slight concern, though, which is that when we wheel out this new Islamophobia definition, will we even be able to talk about it? Oh, but there's still a chance for you to get your tickets to join me live in this very studio on a Friday night. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Juber, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Juber, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. So, the government has unveiled new plans to crack down on honour-based abuse, easy for me to say. These are crimes committed when someone is accused of bringing, quote, shame on their family or community. Now, these are horrific practices, and we've seen this countless times. Female genital mutilation. We've actually set up specific female genital mutilation clinics in this country, not to administer it, obviously, to deal with the aftermath of it. Forced marriage and even murder. Now, for the first time, the government will introduce a legal definition of honour-based abuse, backed up with statutory new guidance. And the Home Office will also run a pilot study to work out just how widespread this crime really is in Britain. I'm joined now by journalist and commentator Khadija Khan. Khadija, thank you very, very much. Now, I know this is an uncomfortable topic to talk about, but I think that's the reason why, basically, people have been silenced from talking about it for so long. How widespread is this, and what communities is it most prevalent in?
Thank you so much, Patrick, for having me on. I think this is a positive step in the right direction. However, its implication appears unrealistic given the current circumstances and the scope of the issue. Professionals from the police to social workers and teachers, they should be trained enough to recognize the abuse and act quickly to protect those at risk. It's all good talk. However, Labour seems to have relentlessly refused to address the elephant in the room when it comes to protecting minority women and girls. The religious and cultural beliefs that impose unwarranted, detrimental, and undesirable restrictions on women and girls are primarily linked to honor-based abuse. Can we genuinely engage in an open and honest discussion about the cultural and religious factors contributing to this egregious crime without fear of repercussion?
Well, go on. What are they, Khadija?
I mean, the scope is huge since we don't talk about these issues. So this honor-based abuse, you mentioned about Islamophobia, how once the definition of Islamophobia is codified into law, we wouldn't be able to talk about these issues. We wouldn't be able to talk about forced marriages. We wouldn't be able to talk about marital rape, cousin marriage, or toxic modesty culture in which wearing hijab and burqa is considered a mark of honor for women and girls. And any refusal to wear such modest attire is deemed to be disrespectful to the honor of family and religion. It's a sad reality, Patrick, that we live in a society where religious and cultural sensitivities override human rights when it comes to minority women specifically. And minority women and girls, they have been thrown under the bus for a long, long time, I would say, just to appease, a bunch of religious zealots in this country. And if our priorities are misplaced, how can we have a hope to protect these vulnerable girls and women, many of whom suffer in silence? This needs to be emphasized that many victims of honor-based abuse, they suffer in silence and many never come forward. And these root causes, if we don't talk about it and we are reluctant to address these root causes just because we don't want to lose votes, or we don't want to offend religious fanatics, or we just don't want to bring the sacred religious belief into equation, then I think no materialistic...
What is the, just for the sake of, spelling this out, what is religion you keep referring to here?
Of course, I'm talking about Islam, and I'm talking about the misogyny that stems from Islamic discourse. And the problem when we see Labour talk about treating misogyny as terrorism or introducing new laws to address honor-based violence, there is this whole discussion and conversation about the role of religion and religious belief is missing. We don't see people talking about it. People don't really want to bring religion into this equation. They want to just keep it separate. And mostly people, they blame culture. Now, I want to say this, that in closed community, in conservative Muslim communities, there is no such culture that exists outside of the realm of religious beliefs. All culture, it has been incorporated with the religion, and this is one and the same thing. You cannot say that it's cultural and that is why it has nothing to do with religion.
OK, so under this new Islamophobia definition, which is almost inevitably around the corner, we're going to see very quickly this, by the way, there is the possibility, is there, that this government might introduce a new definition of honour-based abuse, but I wouldn't be allowed to talk about what goes on because that will be Islamophobic.
This initiative, this introduction of new definition of honor-based violence, I think this is going to face significant challenges if the definition of Islamophobia is codified into law. The term, in fact, has become a threat hovering over women's rights, like a sword of Damocles, in my opinion, because we wouldn't be, as I mentioned earlier, that we wouldn't be wouldn't be able to talk about anything like forced marriages, marital rape, cousin marriage, because these things are considered.
We're going to have to go, I'm afraid. I'm so sorry, Khadija, to cut you off. We're at the end of the hour, but thank you very much, Khadija Khan there. Coming up next, reforms, new illegal migration deportation plans. Stay tuned.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Most places are going to have a largely dry night with today's showers largely dying out. However, there is a weather system out in the Atlantic that's heading our way, and it's going to bring a spell of pretty heavy and perhaps even thundery rain for many places as we go through tomorrow. Before that though, like I said, a largely dry night across many spots, just a few showers, particularly towards the north and west. Under the dry, clearer weather, things may turn a little fresh for some of us. That being said, most towns and cities holding up in double digits. Just a few rural spots could just about fall into single figures. And then it's a largely fine start to the day for many places. Across much of Scotland, there will be a good deal of sunshine early on. Just a few showery bursts here or there, particularly around some central areas. There could be a couple of showers and they could be a little bit on the heavy side. A different story for Northern Ireland though. That weather system I highlighted here, it is going to be bringing a pretty wet start to the day, and there could be some gusty winds, maybe even some rumbles of thunder mixed in with it as well. Similar across parts of Western Wales, southwest England, an unsettled start here. Elsewhere across much of England though, it's a fine picture through much of the morning, but that whole frontal system is going to march its way eastwards across the whole of the country. So most of us will see a spell of heavy rain, and there could be some thunder, some gusty winds mixed in. The further east you are, the later it's going to arrive. With the slightly more unsettled weather, temperatures are going to be down a couple of degrees and feeling a little bit fresher as well compared to today. Then into Thursday, and it's a bit of a westy split. Eastern parts having a lot of fine weather still. Further west, a greater chance of some frequent showers, and these could be heavy, perhaps even thundery, and a few of those showers will push their way towards the east as well. Another showery day likely on Friday and on Saturday, but that does bring the potential for some heavier rain, perhaps in the southwest.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
if you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay. Period.
Nigel Farage unveils Reform's bumper plan for mass deportations and...
Politicians who sat in government for many years, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Well, now there's been a rape gang inquiry, and what it has revealed is that it's happened / is happening in 85 local authorities in Britain. Plus...
Ophelia Ahmed, a British Pakistani girl from Warrington, who was murdered aged 17 by her parents for becoming too westernised.
Yeah, well, yesterday it was foreign sex offenders. Today it is Pakistani foreigners killing their daughters for bringing shame on the family. Also...
really get to know somebody when you're in a little tent together and there's like...
What is that outside the... What is that outside the tent?
That's an elephant.
Are we going to be safe? Yeah, you're safe.
Oh.
Okay.
I regret to inform you that Meghan Markle is back and...
We're back and we're ready for it all over again.
So's he. Get ready for Jezbollah, anybody? Party McPartyface. Corbyn's new party is going to put their name to some kind of public vote. A disaster waiting to happen. Oh, and on the front page of tomorrow's Daily Telegraph, the Taliban has said it is ready and willing to work with Nigel Farage on deporting Afghans from Britain. On my panel tonight, we've got former Conservative MP Heather Wheeler, political commentator Jonathan Liss, and acting deputy commentator, editor of the Telegraph, Poppy Coburn. Sorry, Poppy. Oh, and can you guess why I'm playing this clip to you? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. If you're here illegally, pack your bags. You're going home. Next. Good evening. Well, the big news of the day is that Nigel Farage has just unveiled the strictest illegal immigration plan in British history.
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route. And if we do that, the boats will stop coming within days, because there would be no incentive to pay a trafficker to get into this country. If you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay, period.
Well, here is that plan, right? So deport 600,000 people in Reform's first term. Build detention sites with a capacity of 24,000 within the first 18 months of office. Leave the ECHR. Repeal the Human Rights Act. Disapply the Refugee Convention for 5 years. On top of that, they're going to do returns deals with countries like Afghanistan and Eritrea. They're going to detain and deport women and children as well. They're going to use overseas territories like the Ascension Islands for overflow if necessary. They're also going to deport visa overstayers and make tearing up your identity documents a criminal offence. Now, Nigel Farage says that the British public have had enough, and he's right. He says that we risk serious civil unrest if this isn't sorted immediately. And he's right. He says it's time to pick a side, and he's right.
And all of it really poses one big fundamental question. Whose side are you on? Are you on the side of women and children being safe on our streets? Or are you on the side of outdated international treaties backed up by a series of dubious courts?
And you've got people like the CEO of Care for Calais crying about it on Sky News.
I noticed that Nigel Farage brushed off quite quickly the question about women and children. He said, well, you know, 3/4 of them are young men. Well, actually, that makes 25% of them women and children. What is going to happen to them? What happens about unaccompanied minors? Are they going to be deported? And deported where? To where? How? I mean, is a plane load going to land in Syria? Is it going to land with former members of the Afghan National Army in Afghanistan and hand them straight over to the Taliban?
I mean, firstly, that guy obviously did not listen to Nigel Farage's speech because he addressed those things. However, that bloke doesn't seem to see a problem with people illegally crossing loads of countries to break into Britain. But gosh, the idea of sending someone back to Afghanistan, it's impossible. Cry harder, mate, all right? Just on that deal with the Taliban, look, it's unpalatable to many people, and I get that. But so is this. An Afghan raped a 15-year-old schoolgirl in Scotland. Some of the other Afghan greatest hits that we've had here in Britain include Abdulazidi, who doused a woman and child with acid in Clapham. I mean, it's non-stop, this stuff. Nigel Farage has said that Afghans who helped British troops won't be deported. And the point is this. Once you send the first lot of Afghans back, they stop coming. You don't have to keep doing it. Now, of course, the Taliban will do a deal. Zia Yusuf has set aside about £2 billion to help convince them. That is apparently about 15% of their entire GDP. There were other aspects to this deal as well. She's going to deport visa overstayers.
If you look at those that have claimed asylum in the last year, the biggest single category comes from Pakistan. And they haven't come by boat. They've come with the excuse they're coming to visit relatives, then they overstay. And that racket, absolute racket, that's been going on for years has to end.
Yeah, he wants to put Brits at the top of the housing waiting list and ensure that they are the first in the queue for benefits. People on the left are calling it extreme. People like Lib Dem leader Ed Davey.
Looks like Nigel Farage wants to follow his hero Vladimir Putin and pull out of the EHCR. I think Winston Churchill would be turning in his grave at that. You know, the truth is, it was Farage's Brexit that caused the small boats. Before Brexit, we could send back any illegal immigrant coming over in a small boat. Actually, Nigel Farage should have apologised today.
I mean, there's so much to go out there, isn't there? But we haven't got the time. I'll just say how pathetic he is. Firstly, though, it's not actually extreme. It's normal.
Will Border Force be seeking out people who are here illegally, possibly many of them working in the criminal economy? Yes, it's what normal countries do all over the world. It's what normal countries do.
Secondly, now Labour are actually copying him. So they have now said today, after Farage finished speaking, that they will consider doing deals with Afghanistan and Eritrea. Terrible news for the Labour MPs that were very quick to go on social media earlier on, saying that not only was this unpalatable, but it couldn't be done. I mean, one of their ministers, Matthew Pennycook, told this to GB News.
We've been very honest about the fact that we were never going to fix the broken immigration and asylum system we inherited overnight, but we are making tangible progress in terms of deporting people with no right to be here. This ambitious pilot scheme we've got in place with France now. Asylum seekers have been detained under it. We'll see removals to France in the coming week. But when it comes to the ECHR, we don't think it's in our national interest to withdraw completely, put ourselves in the same camp as two other countries, Russia and Belarus. But that is not to say that we don't think the convention needs reform.
Bookmark that. Bookmark what he just said there about people being returned to France in the coming weeks, because it should be in the coming 48 hours. We signed the deal with them. We got it over the line on August the 6th. We had 3 days to tell them who we were sending back. They had 14 days to tell us if they'd accept or reject them. Time's up, sunshine. Time's up. Why is it going to take a few more weeks? And just look at the way that Reform presented this tonight, OK? Huge flag, gravitas, bit of presence there in an aircraft hangar. Thinking of the little details as well, they've got a departure board here. I think we can show, there you are, illegal migrants boarding, you've got the countries on the side there. Fine. Now just compare that to how utterly stale Sir Keir Starmer is.
The reason I'm speaking out today in relation to Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage.
Look how stale Kemi Badenoch is. I mean, it looks like she's hosting a sales meeting at DFS, doesn't it? Nigel Farage is banking on the fact that the British people have had enough and that even just the threat of this plan will be enough to stop the invasion of Britain. I must say, I do suspect that he's right about both of those things. And in the last few moments, some breaking news for you. The Taliban has responded to Mr Farage's proposals today and said it is willing to work with the reform leader. An official told The Telegraph, "We are ready and willing to receive and embrace whoever he sends us. We are prepared to work with anyone who can help end the struggles of Afghan refugees, as we know many of them do not have a good life abroad. We will not take money to accept our own people, but we welcome aid to support newcomers. Afghanistan is the home to all Afghans, and the Islamic Emirate is determined to make this country a place where everyone, those already here, those returning, or those being sent back from the West by Mr Farage or anyone else, can live with dignity." Well, there you go. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Former Conservative MP Heather Wheeler, we've got political commentator Jonathan Liss, and The Telegraph's Poppy Coburn. Right, OK, Poppy, I'll start with you again. So what do you make of Farage's mass deportation plan?
I mean, look, forget one in, one out. Why not just out? I literally do not think you could come up with a better policy that goes through comprehensively exactly what you need to do to fix the migration system. You know, I think Farage has been accused for so long by Labour and the Conservatives of being all slogans, all bluster. He hasn't got a plan. He doesn't actually know what he's going to do. Well, he's got one now. It's totally comprehensive. He's got a roadmap. He knows the conventions we have to leave. He knows the legal challenges that he's going to have to face, and he's also willing to make tough decisions. He's willing to make a deal, for example, with the Taliban. And just quickly, because I'm sure people are going to say, that's unconscionable, how could you do that? Well, Germany, OK? Germany, the EU's Germany is also looking into a returns agreement that would mean the recognition of the Taliban government. This is just a common-sense solution to have a sane and safe migration policy that works for everyone in Britain.
OK, Heather, your views on that plan outlined as it was?
Well, flattery is, and following on from what Kemi Badenoch was producing is great. I mean, you know, that's where we are. The decisions that are going to be made are going to be announced at conference, which is only in about 3.5 weeks' time. So we're absolutely delighted that he's come up with all of this because it's just following what we were doing.
So you think this is Nigel Farage copying the Conservatives?
Completely and utterly, which is fine. I've got no problem with that because it's the right thing to do. It's absolutely the right thing to do.
OK. Jonathan, you look utterly despondent here at the idea that we might be stopping illegal immigration into Britain.
I think it's a reprehensible, stupid plan that is not worked out in any way. You say it's a plan. Saying we're going to deport 600,000 people isn't a plan. I think it's absolutely disgusting, even if there was a plan, but there isn't. It would be the most ambitious thing that a government has ever planned. It would cost billions and billions of pounds. You'd run into the same problems that you have when you plan anything. What community is going to want a prison camp built in their... No, I'm saying that it's not possible. And there is such a thing as the separation of powers. There is such a thing as a judiciary. There is such a thing as human rights, whether or not Nigel Farage likes it. You can't just wipe away hundreds of years of a constitution that says people have have a right to a hearing.
It's interesting you bring up the constitutional aspect because I can tell you that the Human Rights Act was introduced in Britain in 1998. OK, that's not the Magna Carta. That's something that's, you know, nearly as old as I am.
Well, Magna Carta does, in fact, provide for a separation of powers.
Does it say that if you are...
And we've had successive policies over those 8 centuries that say a government, the executive, whether it's a king or prime minister, cannot simply do what he likes with...
You'd carry on. It's costing us billions a year now.
Patrick, as we talk about migration and asylum literally every week. You know perfectly well what my position is, that we should have a humane asylum policy where people are allowed safe and legal routes to come here, so we don't need the boats. OK, so,
Poppy, the slight thing that people are picking up on here is the idea that he might be willing to deport women and children. Would you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if illegal means anything, it means illegal. OK, if we're not having a distinction of a rule that must be followed for everyone, it doesn't work. I mean, I'd like to point out, by the way, that there are 123 million people around the world who are currently be displaced because of war. OK, I'm not saying that those these people should be forced back to their countries. But it's a massive logical leap to go from I am fleeing Afghanistan to I deserve to settle in Britain. There's a lot of countries along the way. The point is that there are pull factors that muddy the line between refugee status and economic migration.
But that's why we have the asylum system.
This is why David Blunkett of the Labour Party has suggested leaving the ECHR. He's not Putin.
Well, look, he's on the right to the Labour Party.
Oh, come on.
Of course he's on the right to the Labour Party, Patrick.
Of course he is. He's not really being far right, is he? I mean,
it's far right.
Heather, so just with this then, I mean, do you think this would actually work? Because the whole point of this is I think people jump up and down. I think what Nigel Farage would say is that if he does this and does it right for like a few weeks, then you don't really have to keep doing it because the problem goes away.
Absolutely. So, you know, I've been lucky enough to have an amazing political career. One of the weirdest and incredible things I did was go out to the Congo to look at where the refugees from the Lord's Resistance Army were being based. 2,500 in a camp. And it was spotless. And there was absolutely no trouble whatsoever. They did not leave that camp. And the Congo were looking after them because they were, in effect, fighting in Rwanda. I mean, these were really horrible people. I mean, genuinely bad people. But they were contained. People in the villages around felt completely safe. So we don't know how many of these people coming over in the boats are bad people. We just don't know.
Heather, you can understand that people are not exactly going to trust your party on this, given that it was under 14 years of Conservative rule that the asylum situation, because it is obviously a problem, everyone agrees it's a problem, it kind of was completely ballooned. So why would anyone trust your party?
Well, the answer is we're coming up with ideas right now.
No, because you can see Farage coming, you're trying to outflank him.
Should we trust Keir Starmer? Because didn't he sign a letter to keep foreign offenders in Britain?
Patrick, as I've said to you many, many times, I do not support the Labour policy on migration. And I also think...
you support the one where he signed the letter to keep the foreign criminals in Britain?
I also think that there is such a thing as a Good Friday Agreement.
You just want to answer
and
that?
Also, I don't know what letter you're talking about.
Okay,
but there is also such a thing as a Good Friday Agreement and the agreement with the EU, which demand that we are part of the European Convention of Human Rights. So if you want to sort of compromise peace in Northern Ireland and also get a no-deal Brexit, then that's something that we should talk about.
OK, so is that a problem? Because that is the line that's coming out. If we scrap the ECHR, we scrap the Good Friday Agreement. Is that a problem for you, Poppy, or not?
I mean, obviously it's going to be problematic, but I think it's far more problematic to ignore the issue that's now polling as the #1 most important issue in the country. OK, it's been important to people for 25 years. There is no choice anymore. You don't get to moralise to people. You don't get to tell them that they're wrong. People have been very, very clear. It's destroyed the Conservative Party. It's currently destroying the Labour Party. It's going to make Nigel Farage Prime Minister. So I think we all just need to make peace with the fact that this is the only sensible way forward. You need to have a proper migration policy and a proper refugee policy for the 21st century.
On that, then, Heather, where are the Tories, or where should they be, in your opinion, on the ECHR? Because there are benefits to the ECHR. We've kind of said that through gritted teeth, but there are, and the reform plan is to scrap it all. Would it lead to a war again on the island of Ireland?
There are problems. You know, let's not be silly about this. The idea of a completely free border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland is going to be put at risk. The Northern Ireland people don't want a border, and we say to the Southern Ireland people, if you don't like it, well, you pay for a border, and it's as simple as that. But that won't help matters. It'll actually make things worse. But in the short term, I think we need to absolutely look and see what Denmark are doing. Absolutely look and see what Sweden are doing. Absolutely look and see what Germany are doing.
Well, none of them are pulling out the ECHR, that's for sure.
Well, they're getting derogations left, right and centre from it. So absolutely.
If you want to talk about things that have destabilised Northern Ireland as well, I mean, Ballymena recently had loads of riots over the placement of refugees in HMOs. If you want to talk about the most destabilising force in Britain right now, it's the placement of people in asylum hotels and HMOs across the country. If you don't fix that, you're going to have more protests.
Well, Ballymena had race riots. I don't think that we should sort of see those as legitimate somehow.
I'm not saying it's legitimate, I'm saying they happened.
Yes, and plenty of bad things happen, and we shouldn't sort of simply be in hock to them. And the other thing, Patrick, to say is that in this plan, we're going to send people back to countries that are not safe by any means. Like the Taliban, we fought the Taliban, and now we're going to give them billions of pounds and send people right into their arms. Make that make sense.
Yeah, but you know what
and Sudan is currently gripped by civil war. We're going to send people back there as well, are we? I'm sorry, but people do care
about young
Britain
British
has a
girls
refugee
in playgrounds across the country being videoed, being raped, being sexually assaulted by men.
They are raped. They're raped by British people. 85% of white Cyprus, we 85% of cases.
But I can't.
We can deal with that. We can deal with anything.
We can deal with that. I really have a problem with the idea of Afghan rapists, raping a 15-year-old girl in Scotland. I have a problem with that, and I'm sorry, but if the price to pay to stop that is to send a few people back to Afghanistan, I don't know how many people out there care
Britain
about
takes
that.
far fewer asylum seekers than comparable European countries. Those other European countries, they manage the situation. They are not leaving the ECHR. The only countries have left that are Russia and Belarus, and we cannot
it's
say
destabilising every single European country. It's literally destabilising every single European country 10 years ago that did not have a hard right party now has one because of the asylum issue. It will destroy any political party that ignores it.
Do you think? I mean, obviously, a lifelong Conservative. I kind of expect what you're going to say here, but. Yeah, you look at that from Nigel Farage today. Do you think that's the election now? It's his to lose?
I think it's helpful that he's finally brought out a plan because he's been talking about it for 4 months and he hasn't done it before. The fact that the plan is actually based on our bill that we put in that they didn't vote for, unbelievable. But, I think we can all push in the same direction on this one. I genuinely do.
All right. Well, there we go. I suppose the proof will be in the pudding, won't it, really? But, yeah, loads more to come. In fact, actually, there was a inquiry that's been done into the rape gang issue, and it's identified 85 local authorities where it either was happening or is happening. And Elon Musk has got on board with it as well, but I'll reveal everything a little bit later on. First, though, I do want to tell you about the latest Great British giveaway, because you're in the final week of it now. It's your chance to live mortgage or rent-free for a year, I think it is, and have £5,000 in your bank account. But look, if you've not got a mortgage, you don't pay rent for whatever reason, you could still end up with £15,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how.
There's just 3 days to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. And if you don't have a mortgage or rent to pay, lucky you, we'll give you £15,000 tax-free cash instead. Hurry, lines close this Friday. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up, I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you, but next...
Politicians who sat in government for many years, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Well, there has been a rape gang inquiry, and it has revealed that child exploitation by gang-led rape networks has occurred in at least 85 local authority areas around the UK. Stay tuned.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
I find this a very sad story, that we are considerably less electrified than comparable economies. Is it a sad story?
It covers the trials, tribulations, but also the triumphs of electrification in this country, because we have done some things very well. HS1, for example, I worked on that, the Channel Tunnel rail link, and Don Heath, my co-author, was the project director of the East Coast Main Line, the longest work site in the UK, and indeed I think in Europe in the 1980s. And he brought that job in on time and on budget, as indeed HS1 did. In fact, he got to Leeds a year early and saved £1 million. So we have done some things well.
So, first, as it were, the decision-making side of it. and then we'll talk about implementation. So why is it that Britain has not decided to do more electrification in what I would call a timely way?
I think it's primarily because we have no strategy. We had no strategy for electrification, and that goes back right to the 1800s.
Was it the case that British Railways was sort of romantically connected to steam, wouldn't give up steam, and then, rather oddly, became rather infatuated with diesel as well?
Yeah, that's a point, or a number of points that we bring out in the book, actually, because there were different factions in the 1950s. Some people wanted to stick with steam and go straight to electrification. Robert Riddles, for example, he was the chief engineer. But other people thought that the infrastructure requirements were too big, and that wouldn't it be better to go for diesel-electric traction and have some benefit from the electric?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. All of tomorrow's newspapers coming your way very, very shortly. But first, there has been a rape gang inquiry, and it has revealed that child exploitation by gang-led rape networks has occurred in at least 85 local authority areas across the UK. The investigation, which was supported by survivors, families and whistleblowers, found repeated patterns of exploitation, often enabled by failures from public bodies. Now, cases date back as far as the 1960s and stretch from Aberdeen to Plymouth. The inquiry will begin hearings later this year, and it aims to deliver justice and to help safeguard the victims, and presumably as well, obviously, try to prevent it in future. Well, the chair of that is Rupert Lowe, and he called the scandal, quotes, widespread and devastating, and he's urging the government to take swift action after what he described as years of delay and broken promises. And the latest I saw on social media, anyway, was that Elon Musk himself is, I believe, anyway, pledging to help support with prosecutions of people, presumably financially. Well, I'm joined now by the father of one of the grooming gang victims or survivors. It's Marlon West. Marlon, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you for talking to us about what must be such an awful issue for you. How do you feel, just at face value, having a look at the findings of that report?
I'm not surprised one bit. You know, I've been campaigning for this for a while. I speak to a lot of survivors and a hell of a lot of families. And this is a national crisis. So even you know, families I speak to in, let's say, Norfolk, exactly the same patterns. So I'm not surprised. The general public might be surprised. But as a father, and going through what I've gone through, it doesn't surprise me one bit. I think it's not just one area, it's the whole country.
Well, clearly, yeah. I mean, it is. And that is why I wonder whether or not it's taken so long, because people don't want to admit the truth, which is that actually this is a national... It's not just Rotherham. It's not just Rochdale.
No.
You mentioned there similar patterns. What are those patterns, Marlon?
So the patterns are with local authorities not supporting, and this is my own experience as well as other families, but not supporting when it's very clear your child's being groomed. It's just pushed away and covered up. They will not discuss it with you. For example, with my daughter, to date, they still say she hasn't been groomed, but the evidence is overwhelming. To be fair on Great Manchester Police, they recognise that. And this, again, is a common story with every family and every survivor across the country.
Yes, so the thinking behind this inquiry then would be to, one, show the scale of the problem, which I think it's already begun to do. Two, show maybe where some of the root cause is of this are. Have those difficult conversations. Look, we have white grooming gangs. We absolutely do. But we seem to have a heck of a lot of Pakistani grooming gangs as well, and I think that is a problem. The other thing is to show the inaction of public bodies, public organisations. What do you make of the idea, Marlon, that people have shied away from this issue for a long time because they were afraid of being called Islamophobic or afraid of being called racist? What do you think about that?
I agree with that. People, professionals, I guess in some ways, are terrified, even if they want to come forward. Some social workers have said to me, "Yeah, I agree with you, but I can't say that within work." And there's that element of being terrified of being accused of being racist. But I also believe a lot of this, in my experience and speaking with other families, is your local councillors. So there's a political element to this.
So this is what I think is going to be exposed here in this. And we're going to basically have people essentially, for the first time ever, really forced into giving testimony and forced into being made to account for why, when they were in positions of power, they did nothing. We've had some of the perpetrators, the actual rapists, being prosecuted and sent to prison. So we've had that. What we have not yet had is people in councils, people who maybe have been members of the police, people who have maybe been working in childcare services. We've not had them put on the stand really yet. And you think we're going to get that, do you?
I hope so. I hope. Don't forget, the rape gang inquiry is still in its early days, but I'm really, really hoping that the government will take this report seriously. It's probably the most transparent report because it's survivors and families who are giving these testimonies. So hopefully the government will take this serious. What I want, going back to what you've said, is accountability. For example, with my daughter, she had a social worker who didn't protect her. This is where I get really, really upset. They didn't protect her, and they still have a code of conduct. Because they didn't want to be called racist or there was having political pressure, that doesn't matter. The child is paramount within this, and keeping the child safe, which is what they've not done.
Do you think we're about to uncover the biggest scandal in British history, which is that we've imported largely a Pakistani rape gang culture, and that right to the very top of the British establishment, it has been covered up?
Absolutely. I think once this comes out, even though I agree with the rape gang inquiry, unfortunately, it hasn't got any statutory powers to really dig in deep. And this is why it's so important that the National Inquiry digs deeper to expose this. Once that's exposed, it is massive.
I think the biggest fear, clearly, for a lot of people is it being exposed. And what they have been able to hide behind, I think, is that there's not been an organisation who's been willing to do it. There's been no political party who's been willing to do it. There's also not been an individual with the personal wealth in order to be able to do this, because there will be huge sums of money that go towards bringing, whether it's private prosecution, civil cases, whatever it is. Well, we'll step forward Elon Musk, who, I guess, for a lot of people might be a divisive character. However, he's just tweeted, or X'd, I don't know what we're supposed to call it these days. Anyway, I would like to help fund legal actions against corrupt officials who aided and abetted the rape of Britain, per the official government inquiry. Now, I think he's the richest man in the world. He's certainly there or thereabouts, so he's got a bob or two. He could conceivably be funding all of this, which means that we might actually get all the answers. I think there's a lot of people who might be, for want of a better phrase, bricking it this evening. Marlon?
Yeah. And that's the key, getting the answers. We all want the answers. Obviously, I'm really upset with the rape gangs who groomed and tortured and trafficked my daughter, but I'm more upset with professionals who should have been keeping her safe. And they're the ones that I am campaigning against.
Yeah, and look, all credit to you. I can't begin to imagine what you and sadly your daughter went through, and it's just the most horrific thing ever. And I do wish you and your whole family all the very best, and everyone who's a survivor and a victim. And I think that what is being attempted to be exposed here anyway is a kind of spider's web of how far this goes, almost like a kind of family tree of guilt, really, for people right at the top, whether it's councils or it's whatever it is. And I hope that happens, because we need to get this out of society, and you have to take that out root and branch. But Marlon, thank you for your time, and all the best. All right, take care. Yeah. Marlon West there, father of one of the grooming gang victims. We have got a Home Office statement here. This is previously they've said this. The grooming scandal was one of the greatest failures in our country's history, with vulnerable young people let down time and again. This government is wholly dedicated to delivering justice for all the victims. Well, look, watch this space. Again, that was the development today. If you're just joining us, 85 local authorities that either had a problem with this or still have a problem with it, stretching from Aberdeen to Plymouth, right across the country. The cover-up is over. It's all coming to light now. And, you know, frankly, we're going to see what we're going to see underneath those rocks. And there's going to be some very, very unpleasant things under there. But we need to see it. We need to know the truth. Coming up, slight shift in tone, this, to be perfectly honest. But can you guess why I'm playing you this clip? Yeah, sorry for anyone who's scared of rats. I maybe should have put some kind of trigger warning on. That's not really how we roll here at GB News. Next, though, tomorrow's front pages, and the Mirror simply says, Britain is better than this. Well, it can be, if you enact the plan, I suppose. Stay tuned.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, there's plenty of sunny spells across Europe, but also some widespread thunderstorms developing. So across much of Madeira and the Canary Islands, a few showers here and breezy. Across Spain, fine with plenty of sunshine. But here are those thunderstorms with the risk of hail and lightning. Across Greece, much of the country seeing plenty of sunshine here. And as we go through the week, there'll still be some showers around, but also plenty of sunshine still, and temperatures up to 33.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Most places are going to have a largely dry night, with today's showers largely dying out. However, there is a weather system out in the Atlantic that's heading our way, and it's going to bring a spell of pretty heavy and perhaps even thundery rain for many places as we go through tomorrow. Before that, though, like I said, a largely dry night across many spots, just a few showers, particularly towards the north and west. Under the dry, clearer weather, things may turn a little fresh for some of us. That being said, most towns and cities holding up in double digits. Just a few rural spots could just about fall into single figures. And then it's a largely fine start to the day for many places. Across much of Scotland, there will be a good deal of sunshine early on. Just a few showery bursts here or there, particularly around some central areas. There could be a couple of showers, and they could be a little bit on the heavy side. A different story for Northern Ireland, though. That weather system I highlighted here, it is going to be bringing a pretty wet start to the day, and there could be some gusty winds, maybe even some rumbles of thunder mixed in with it as well. Similar across parts of Western Wales, southwest England, an unsettled start here. Elsewhere across much of England, though, it's a fine picture through much of the morning, but that whole frontal system is going to march its way eastwards across the whole of the country. So most of us will see a spell of heavy rain, and there could be some thunder, some gusty winds mixed in. The further east you are, the later it's going to arrive. With the slightly more unsettled weather, temperatures are going to be down a couple of degrees and feeling a little bit fresher as well compared to today. Then into Thursday, and it's a bit of a westy split. Eastern parts having a lot of fine weather still. Further west, a greater chance of some frequent showers, and these could be heavy, perhaps even thundery, and a few of those showers will push their way towards the east as well. Another showery day likely on Friday and on Saturday, but that does bring the potential for some heavier rain, perhaps in the southwest.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Let's give you a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. I mean, shock horror, there's one story dominating. We start with the Metro. Farage, end the scourge. Reform unveils shock small boats plan. I think it's only a shock if you've not really been listening for the last so long. But he says he'll deport 600,000 people, detain every illegal and do deals with the Taliban. The Independent go for revealed the real cost of Farage's fag packet deportation scheme. So Reform leader unveils £10 billion plan to quit the European Convention on Human Rights. They say that analysis from The Independent shows that deportation flights alone would cost, quote, an extra 6.3 billion quid a year, plus 3.6 billion pounds converting RAF bases into detention centres. We're going to have a chat in a second about whether or not you basically think that's worth the money, but then they go for the eye. Farage's promise to deport 600,000 migrants involves deals with the Taliban and Iran's Ayatollah. Yeah, again, do you care? The Mirror, unaffordable, unworkable. By the way, I'm aware that we seem to have grouped all the left-wing papers together here, but we might as well get them out of the way. Britain is better than this, they say. OK, let's just deal with the Independent's front page there. Poppy, it is whatever the cost they say this is. I mean, quite how they've reached these numbers, we don't know, but to be fair, we're dealing with numbers on both sides here that maybe have been plucked out of thin air a little bit. Is it worth any cost, this?
I mean, it's amazing. I can't believe the Independents finally found public money that they're not happy to spend. This is quite remarkable. I mean, my answer to that question is pretty straightforward, which is yes, because it's not a problem that's going to resolve itself. You know, I said earlier on the show, there's 123 million people around the world who've been displaced by war. OK, any of those people could come to Britain at some point. We need to now invest in the future, have a sensible policy, accept it's going to cost a bit of money, everything does nowadays, and realise that that's investing in the future.
Heather, what do you make of this? Because this could be a sticking point for some people where they go, hang on a minute, where is this money coming from?
He's got a real conundrum. And the problem is, in the short run, you've still got the hotel costs, you've still got the HMO costs, you've still got the costs of building the camps. I think it will be a deterrent. I absolutely do, which is why I'm pleased that Kemi Badenoch is going down that line too. But in the short run, the idea then of getting the flights off to all of these places, but it's got to be done. It's got to be done. I think it's a price worth paying.
Well, Badenoch never saw a bandwagon she didn't want to jump on. I mean, she's going to be out for long before Nigel Farage ever sees Downing Street, thank goodness. The only good idea she did, well, she's never had a good idea. The worst idea she ever had was deciding to run for the leader in the first place. But look, you have this plan now that is going to cost billions and billions of pounds, and the same people who complain endlessly about the amount of money that Britain spends on asylum, accommodation, etc., are going to be sort of entirely happy for billions to be spent on this. And then you have all these countries who, with these despicable regimes that we hear so much about, and now we're going to be sending money to them as well and doing business with them. And people do have basic rights. And what this plan is essentially saying is that Britain is going to absent itself from the asylum regime, and we're not going to accept anyone, even if they're a legitimate refugee. I don't understand your plan, Poppy, to give billions of pounds to aid organisations. That's not what aid organisations are there for. And people who will go to refugee camps, but millions of people will not go to Britain, but they will always seek asylum in safe countries. That is what's happened for centuries. It's not going to end tomorrow.
Well, we can just go through the figure that Farage has given. So he said £10 billion over 3 years, right? So last year we spent £5 billion just on the asylum hotels. That was in 1 year alone. Those costs are only going to go up because we know more people are coming. They're going to have to stay in hotels. That doesn't count for all of the other additional costs that come from access to public funds, which are still going through the back door. A big investigative report from Onward think tank came out with that last week. We know more people are going to be coming, so the numbers are going to be up and up and up. So let's say, as The Independent says, a few extra billion on top of that £10 billion cost. To me, that's pretty good value for money.
Are you saying that Britain should be the only country in the world that doesn't accept any refugees under any circumstances?
I'm not saying accept any refugees. I'd accept Ukrainian refugees.
OK, well, that's interesting. Why are Ukrainian refugees then?
Because
why are they different?
Because people supported the scheme, which is the most important thing. You need to have public consent. They are regionally close to us, so it made sense for them to settle in the UK. And we'd had a long-running scheme that meant it was temporary accommodation rather than permanent asylum.
Think the difference
so people agreed with it.
And also, let's also
point out that the majority of people coming over were women and children.
Okay.
So there's difference
and they
in
wanted
public
to go
opinion.
home again, which is interesting.
Well, a lot of them have stayed. A lot of them have stayed.
The war's still going on.
The only reason they're not illegal is because the government let them come. The government doesn't let anyone else come. That's the problem.
OK, well, Hong Kong...
yes.
Well, they're not in a war, are they?
Well, we also haven't had much of a problem.
Do you want to go and live in China?
Well, Hong Kong is not the same as Sudan. I think you'd accept that.
Why, out of interest?
Because there's not a war happening there.
There's nothing...
There's not a war happening in Hong Kong.
There, it's all different.
There is not a war happening there, Patrick.
Fair enough. OK. All right. Well, I think we're going to squeeze this in, but I think we'll have to do this after the break because former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn says that his new party are doing things slightly differently. They're asking you to give them a name. And if they can't even name their own party, it does make you wonder whether or not they can run the thing. So he and his co-founder, Zara Sultana, launched the site, had 300,000 sign-ups, although I think a lot of those people are people laughing at it. But Corbyn says that the group will challenge poverty, oppose war, take on Labour at next year's local elections. Has anyone got any suggestions for the party name? Anyone? I don't know. Any
it's going to be Jeremy McBoatface.
Yeah. Yeah, Jezbollah, maybe. Jonathan, would you join this party? Is this the party for you?
I've never joined a political party, Patrick. I don't intend to.
What would you...
I think the People's Party is a good title, though.
People's Party? It's a very sensible one.
I think someone came up with the Fruit and Nut Party, wasn't it, before it was originally coming out, but that one's already been taken.
They did, there you go. Well, in The Guardian, this is in the next section, Farage has been accused of ugly populism over plans for mass deportations. So we're going to bring you some of tomorrow's... Be quite intrigued to see, actually, how any of the right-wing papers have been dealing with this. But anyway, yes, there is still time for you to be part of my live studio audience on a Friday. Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Parents whose children have come back to school in September and been told by the head teacher, your form tutor is no longer Miss Smith or whatever, you must call them Mooks. What are children supposed to do in this circumstance?
Well, it's very confusing for them because the person that they're supposed to trust and believe for every minute of the day that they're in the classroom is now implying that she's no longer a woman. And so what sounds like something trivial, you know, a title, is actually a very serious problem because children, this is one more way that children are being taught in schools that instead of the basic reality of everyone being either male or female, that there's some mystery about it. And we know that this is harmful and confusing to them. So really, I think the guidance that's been awaited from the Department for Education is urgently needed because what are schools supposed to do, you know, when they have a teacher making these demands? Are they supposed to accommodate the teacher?
That's my point. This Education Secretary was quite rightly talking about white kids falling behind in schools, which has been a traditional problem for many years, just this week. And now she goes off at a complete tangent on an obscure, I hate to use the word, woke issue.
Well, I think she may have been caught on the hoof. I can't speak for her, but, you know, what she really needs to do is think through all the aspects of gender people's demands, these special demands, and think, what are the implications? What are they saying to children? And they need to come right back to the primary focus of education. And then, you know, they'll see there is no room for this sort of nonsense.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, welcome back, everybody. Here is a continuing roundup of tomorrow's newspapers for you. The Guardian, Farage accused of, quote, ugly populism over plans for mass deportation. I'm just reading this now and trying to see who it is that actually accused him of it. Oh, I think it might be someone from the Joint Council for Welfare of Immigrants. So, there you go. Anyway, there's also the UN calls for justice over the killings in the Gaza war. That is in relation to the double tap of that hospital in Gaza yesterday. The Daily Telegraph, Taliban to give Farage deal on migrants. They've also got the picture story there of Taylor Swift. She's got engaged. Yay, Taylor, the son. Oh, Taylor to wed Travis. Look what you made me, I do, which is a pun. And superstar Taylor Swift last night announced her engagement. There's a big rock on her finger. There you go. The way Travis proposed was classic, timeless and beautiful. They couldn't be happier. Brilliant. Amazing what we can do with money, innit? The Daily Mail. Finally, a politician who gets it. So there's a contrast here between the right-wing papers and the left-wing papers. They also carry the story about Angela Rayner, what this photo says about the smug, tin-eared socialist clique driving Britain into the ground. A video of Angela, or picture, sorry, of Angela Rayner vaping on a rubber boat just off the coast.
Heaven forbid a woman should have a holiday.
Yeah, I think it's the home that's the issue, though, isn't it? Nope, OK.
Well, it's the photograph.
All right, yeah, all right, well, we've only got a couple of minutes, but let's deal into the meatiest topic in the world at the moment, Gaza. The UN calls for justice over the killings in the Gaza war. This is the apparent double tap at a hospital. Let's go. What do you make of this?
On the face of it, it is absolutely horrendous. And Israel have got to come up with a better explanation than they've done so far. Whether it was a rogue general doing something daft, I genuinely don't know. But it's horrifying. It's horrifying.
Jonathan, your views on this?
Well, they said that it was a tragic mishap, and they often say that when they've done something deliberately, which is what they've been doing for the last 2 years. And they're not sorry about this. They've been targeting journalists from the beginning. More journalists have been killed in this war than practically any other. They're just sorry they got filmed and caught, and now they're sort of covering their tracks. But it's completely meaningless when the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary issue their mealy-mouthed condemnation, because what are they actually doing? Absolutely nothing at all. If they meant it, that Israel has gone so far beyond the acceptable limits of warfare, they should be imposing sanctions on Israel and certainly stopping all sales of arms to Israel.
Poppy, what do you think about it?
I mean, I think, again, I have to defer that Israel has been overstepping the line many times the last couple of years. I mean, there was the killing of the 3 British men who were volunteering in Gaza, helping distribute food to people who were suffering there. And I think that the explanation given by the Israeli authorities was completely ridiculous. I understand that they're a war. I understand that they have aims of what they're trying to do with fighting Hamas. But it's not acceptable to have this death toll and have this many so-called mistakes. I don't know.
I know what people will say is obviously that a lot of the death toll seems to come from the Hamas agencies themselves. So I suppose is there any issues of credibility?
But we could say stuff like, international journalists. If you're a Reuters journalist, then that's not from Gaza Health Ministry figures. And that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, well, indeed. OK, well, look, we whiz you through the papers. One of the stories that you might have missed is that Brits are being warned to brace for, quotes, a winter of rats. As experts say, a major infestation of rats is on the way. Pest hunters are already catching up to 22-inch long rats. These are the size of a small dog, apparently. I've never measured a small dog, so I'll have to take their word for it. But after a hot summer, mounting food waste has created perfect breeding conditions. Rat catcher Kieran Sampler says this winter will be horrendous, with infestations spreading from farms and warehouses to homes. An estimated 250 million rats are in the UK. Experts fear the plague, presumably they mean of rats, not the actual plague, but anyway, could worsen as rubbish piles up. All it says, watch out Birmingham, because this would appear to be disproportionately affecting your area. But anyway, there we go. Thank you very much to my wonderful panel. Thankfully, we don't have time to discuss the rats, but yeah, loads more coming your way. Look, it's a huge bumper set of front pages for you here that we've got a top panel for you in the next hour. We'll have any breaking news that happens as well, so don't go anywhere. The story about Nigel Farage's deportation plan appears to be leading on pretty much all of them. Stay tuned.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Most places are going to have a largely dry night, with today's showers largely dying out. However, there is a weather system out in the Atlantic that's heading our way, and it's going to bring a spell of pretty heavy and perhaps even thundery rain for many places as we go through tomorrow. Before that, though, like I said, a largely dry night across many